here and we're ready. All set?
Tim, are we all set?
Yep, go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would someone move item 1.02 to approve the agenda?
Move it.
Second.
Mrs. Periyama, yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Let's see. Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Mr. Cordone.
Yes.
And Mrs. Albagore.
Yes.
Thank you. And it's at this point, our public forum, in lieu of our traditional public forum, we ask people to contact the board using the board's email, which is clerk@fulton.cnyric.org. You may find that address on the district website. And just as a reminder, when you do contact the board, that email is seen it goes to every board member simultaneously. And typically in a regular meeting, the board will listen to persons' concerns or questions, and they are referred to the superintendent to be dealt with. And so I want you to know, if it comes in, it's turned over to the superintendent and you would hear from him. So that's just a little bit of a update on what we do, because I don't think I've ever fully explained it before. And now I'm going to move on to item 1.04, approve last meeting's minutes.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Periyama, yes.
Mrs. Lyons.
Yes.
Mrs. Albagore.
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville.
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo.
Yes.
Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
And Mr. Cordone.
Yes.
Are there any questions with regard to the upcoming meetings? There is a tentative meeting scheduled on here that Superintendent Polvino is going to talk about a little later in the meeting, and that would be a tentative budget workshop. So he's going to discuss that with us later on. But any questions about any of the other scheduled items? All right, I'm going to turn this meeting over to Superintendent Polvino.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. Before we get started, we're going to start off this evening with some recognition of staff, our teachers and our teaching assistants and our tech team. So I thought about during this time of season, I think we strategically placed the teachers and our teaching assistants this week because they're truly right on the front lines. All close to 700 of our staff are right there on the front lines, but our teachers and our teaching assistants are in the classrooms. And I thought of words like how I'm honored, privileged, and so grateful to serve with such a special group of educators. They go above and beyond each and every day, whether it's, kids that are struggling academically, socially, emotionally, they're there. And when you walk around, you see what's going on, and you see that we are focused on those needs each and every day. So it's just so proud. I see their dedication, their perseverance, their positivity each and every day, and the positive impacts that they're having on lives each and every day. Other words that come to mind are the excellence that we strive for all the time and the growth that we're always looking for. These are really challenging times, and our staff has continued to persevere and look for ways that we can do things even better. And, we're constantly looking at ways to improve and better serve the needs of our kids. And we see that through discussions, through our professional learning communities, and the conversations I've had with teachers and principals and all the people on the front lines. But our teachers and our assistants are right there. The caring and the loving and being there for our kids every single day. That joy and that light in the eyes that we saw on day one is still there now, each and every day. And our kids are just so excited to be in school. And when you walk around, they're so excited. And it's because of our teachers and our teacher assistants in those classrooms are making such a positive impact. And then finally, I just want to thank you and say you truly make a difference. And I am eternally grateful, and I'm honored to serve with you and beside you. I've been doing this 31 years, and I truly believe that the Fulton team is just, there's something very special here in Fulton. And I'm proud to serve with you as our teachers and our teacher assistants. So thank you to those groups this evening. And our tech team, as Dr. Lisi often talks about, I often kind of tease him a little bit about the technology, and sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time, 99% of the time, it's working. And that's because of a dedicated team of tech. The tech team is unbelievable. And words I thought about, that they've supported our families and our students and our staff from not understanding. Really, we're just starting our one-on-one initiative when COVID came upon us, and then we came through that and out the other side, and we are stronger for that. And they have provided all of our students access to technology. They're constantly available. They're providing services and supports. They're providing guidance and direction from the moment we design something and implement. I don't think there's anything much we do anymore that doesn't have a technology component to it. And I think that's something that we need to recognize. They've been providing professional development. They've been supporting courses and curriculum. They've been supporting us on how we can be more efficient with our systems and our processes, whether there are HR systems or there are business systems, where really technology is pervasive through everything we do. So I just want to thank Dr. Lisi and the entire tech team for everything you do. I don't know if you want me to add anything, Dr. Lisi, if I missed anything, but I just wanted to capture the essence and the importance of the work, because they're that constant thread that goes pre-K through 12th grade.
Not at all. Thank you, Mr. Provino. I think it's 99.8%, but who's counting? It's all good.
Yeah,
On
depends
behalf,
on the day, right?
yeah, right.
Most of the time, we're right there. So
That's
I just want to extend my appreciation to the entire staff as well, and wish everyone who's listening a happy Thanksgiving, and a Thanksgiving where you have a chance to reflect and enjoy those with whom you care, and spend time outside of school with. It's definitely a week to reflect and ensure that we have balance in our lives. So thank you. Next up is blessings in a backpack. And again, also the timing is just very, very apropos. I want to welcome this evening Susan and Craig Traub. They're with us somewhere here on the screen. There they are. And I had the privilege of being here and watched Blessings in a Backpack grow, and the hundreds of children that you serve. So Susan and Craig, if you'd like to speak and share a little bit about Blessings in a Backpack and all of the work that you're doing here in Fulton. It's truly impacting lives in so many ways.
Oh, thank you. Maybe first, I'd just like to reflect on last year a little bit, because you may not be aware of, with the virtual learning that occurred in the schools, the meal bags were delivered by Golden Sun Bus Company directly to the homes of all of the 230 students that we were serving. Every Friday, Pat Kinane provided 4 buses with a staff, a driver, of course, and an aide on each bus, and we sent out totes, and they went out and delivered across the district to the K through 5 elementary kids, and they just did a phenomenal job. And the drivers and the aides enjoyed doing it. And we're proud to say we did nominate them for a nonprofit awards, Susan, through the Central New York
Business Journal.
And they won. And we had a nice celebration for them in the spring. We provided cakes. We also got a huge banner for them, a track banner, and that's in their break room right now today, still hanging. So that was last year. This year, we're back to a more regular program where the buses are picking up the totes and meal bags on Tuesday, and they're going out, being distributed out through the schools and the teachers on Friday. And we are doing 240 meal bags this year. We're up 10 from last year. And we probably really want to be honest with you and say that looks to be about the amount we feel we can comfortably do from the standpoint of picking up the food, storing the food, packing the food, and distributing it.
Logistics.
Logistics. So I would just want to share that with you too. That's what we're doing this year.
We'd love to increase, but the amount of storage space that we have at Prince of Peace Church and just the amount of food that we're trying to give out, it just, you think you're adding only 10 kids, but it really is an exponential type of add. But we're very thankful of what we were able to get through last year. This year has a new set of challenges for us. It's an easier delivery to the schools, but our challenge is actually getting the food. Save-A-Lot, our supplier, has done an amazing job, but they haven't been able to get us applesauce cups since the beginning of October. And you'd say, are there no apples in America? Well, nobody knows. Aldi's can't even. I went to Aldi's. I said, okay, I'll go to the big box. I went to Aldi's and the manager said, sure, I can get you 40 packages of applesauce cups. Nope, he can't do it either. So little things like that, because of whether it's a packaging concern, sometimes, we weren't able to get canned goods. Sometimes we weren't able to get one of the things the kids love, the mac and cheese, the microwave mac and cheese. That was missing for about 2 weeks. We substitute, we scurry and get it wherever we can. People in the community, Sunrise Rotary has done collections for us, and it's just been amazing. Nobody has had an empty bag all this year, so we're grateful and thankful for that. One thing we were thinking of with our ongoing applesauce concerns, because we're trying to not only improve the number of foods or increase the number of foods that the kids get each weekend, but make sure they get some sort of fruit each weekend. Applesauce is a favorite and has been a staple. The other thing we tried this year was a 100% fruit leather. I don't have one here with me, but if you remember the old fruit roll-ups from the 80s and the 90s, well, this is 100%. It's a strip. It's all natural. I'm getting it from Aldi's, but that's all right. Save-A-Lot knows because they can't get it for me. It's organic. And most of the kids we've given it to they have been kids that we know, not kids that are student recipients of the bags, but our taste testers. They say, yeah, it's good, it's chewy. So we hope they're liking that. But we were wondering, to help with the applesauce, if it would be all right. I don't know what the district policy is or what the teacher's policy is, but we have empty tote bins, plastic bins that are sitting in the school actually right now from the distribution last Friday. If we could ask the teachers in each of the 4 schools to donate 10 applesauce packages each week and put them in the empty totes that the Golden Sun bus drivers pick up, and then we get them. And if they could help us get over this applesauce shortage, if that would be against any policy of the district or the teachers or whatever. So that's one idea we'd like to throw out to you tonight. We've also tried to increase the amount of food. One thing we used to do was the kids would get an oatmeal packet and a cereal bar, and this would equal 2 breakfasts for the weekend. Well, we've doubled it, and now they get 2 oatmeal packets and 2 cereal bars, because we said, an 8-year-old kid, a cereal bar is almost like a snack type of thing. So we've tried to increase and think that, breakfast is the important meal of the day, and they should have something. And surprisingly, when we ask kids, the oatmeal is one of the favorite things that they like. I was at Save-A-Lot last Saturday, and we were doing an information a session for people coming in, and a grandmother came in and said, my grandson was looking at our foods. My grandson gets a bag of this stuff. And we said, what does he like? And she said, the fruit bars and the oatmeal were the first thing she said he likes, but he really likes everything. So oatmeal is a favorite. The mac and cheese is a favorite. Good old pudding. We provide 2 snacks, our chocolate pudding, and this would be a non-fruit, but I didn't have any extra fruit to show you, a granola bar. So they get 2 snacks, 2 breakfasts, and then with the mac and cheese, they would get a can of what they call little hot dogs, the Vienna sausages. We rotate. Some weeks for protein, they get a can of chicken noodle soup. Some weeks we have it's a bumblebee type snack pack of chicken salad with crackers. They get that and a peanut butter cup for their protein. And then they also get the applesauce and the peanut butter and the pudding are the what do I want to say? The fruit offerings, the snack offerings.
And with all of our items, we've worked very hard over the last 3-4 years of making sure that these products are nutritional. You know, I've had in the past, I worked with a dietitian who has looked at all of these foods and has reviewed them from the standpoint of the ingredients, and more importantly, as I've learned dietitians look at, how clean the ingredients are. Okay, so we've worked really hard, and I think this year we've made, as Susan said, an emphasis on fruits, diced peaches, and the fruit stretch leather. What you could help us with, or could we ask possibly the liaison teachers, is to sit down with some students. I don't know how you would do this, but we'd like to get more feedback on these foods we're offering. Because if they're not eating the foods, we're not winning at all here. So is there some way we could work with the liaison teachers that they could go through with some students and say, what do you like and what don't you like? Would be a really great help to us right at this point. We think we have the Save a Lot people working well, and we're working with our delivery. We have a lot of volunteers and packing. This is really the end piece, I think, is where we'd like some feedback on if you could help us, or not you particularly, but if the teachers, the liaison teachers could help us.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you so much for what you do for our students. It's greatly appreciated by those that take advantage of it, but also I appreciate so much all the work that I know goes into being able to make this happen for these kids, and that they are enjoying meals when perhaps they might not otherwise have one. It means a lot, and I'm very thankful that you're there to fill this need.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Have you tried Matt's up on Route 104 in Williamson for the applesauce?
Actually, we have a shipment. We just received a shipment of Mott's applesauce of the cups. That was available on Amazon. However, the cost was like double the price that we're usually paying. So that makes it, when all the other prices are going up, and we work with a budget of about $100 a year for the 38 weeks that we send home food. So doubling the price of the applesauce is a pretty big hit that we have to absorb somewhere else. And I'd rather not go back to sending home bricks of ramen noodles.
No.
They're cheap, but they're not
We're not going to do
kids
that.
should not have to rely on ramen noodles.
No,
I
we're
mean,
not gonna do that.
if they choose it, that's one thing. But I don't want to give them ramen noodles. So thank you. Yes, we have that. The problem is not that there's no apples. The problem is the quantity that either Save a Lot or Aldi's needs. If you go into Aldi's, you'll see there'll be 3 or 4 packages on the shelf. And same thing with Save a Lot. So when I go in, and if I'm trying to, get it from Walmart, from the dollar store, from whatever, I'm literally stripping the shelves and having to make 6 different stops. And that's.
But I do want to make a point. We do not use food from China, just as you hear
Yeah.
going to Dollar General and what have you. We do not purchase any food from China.
Or India,
Yeah.
you know, we read, if I wouldn't give it to my children or
No.
grandchildren, I'm not giving it to any
No,
children.
we
so.
wouldn't do that.
I think what Tim was saying was that somebody called Mott's and asked them if they would help out. Is that what you were wondering, Tim?
We could do that.
We could do that.
You're right. That's a good
Mhm.
suggestion.
If they would deal with us, that would be a good idea. Thank you.
I would, oh, sorry, Brenda, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jess. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask how people can donate. Like how, if we were to get the word out, what are you looking for more monetary donations? Are you looking for actual food donations? How can we donate to you?
Okay. We send all of our funding down to the Blessings National headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky, but we operate out of Prince of Peace Church at the corner of 176th and Gillespie Road there, okay? What we ask people to do on our Facebook page, or what, like community groups like Sunrise Rotary or Catholic Daughters, if someone wants to make a check out to Blessings in a Backpack, number 1764, that's the most important thing, that we have our chapter number there, our program number. You can send it to Prince of Peace Church in Fulton, 64 Gillespie Road in Fulton. And then we forward it, we put them all together and send it down to our account. And when we purchase food, we send the receipts down, and they're the ones that reimburse. So they are, as a member of the National Blessings in a Backpack program, they provide us with liability insurance. They provide us with our 501c3, and IRS certifications. They give us advice. They give us the logos and all those things, and they do our accounting for us.
When it comes to trying to do food donations or what have you, I don't want to sound like a snob, but it's sort of important that if we do food donations, we tell you these are the types of foods and brands that we use. And that if you want to do that type of a donation to us, then we can take these, put them to our storage cabinets with our other mac and cheese and what have you.
Yeah.
And it goes into it would go out to the students. So it would just be a matter of facilitating. If you came to us and I have a group and we'd like to do these things, we could select the items and what have you, and you could go from there. Is that helpful?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
We can't use a jar of mayonnaise. I can't send a jar of mayonnaise home.
Right.
And sometimes people get us confused with a food pantry. And
Right.
sometimes we actually received in September a rather substantial donation of pencils, Purell wipes, erasers, pencil cases, etc. That I said, what do we do with? And actually, I've offered it to the two, I shouldn't admit this, I said the two East Side schools, because I think of Fairgrave and Valney as our neighborhood schools, to church, and said, would you like some of these for either mid-year restocking for your teachers or to use in Christmas gifts or something like that? So, we're going to share them that way.
Maybe we could have the National Honor Society and the National Junior Honor Society get involved. And if we could get just a list of, you like the Easy Mac, macaroni and cheese, and they do food drives, and they're a community service based group from the school. And if you're looking for food donations, that would be a really great community service project to put the kids in charge of for a certain food, and even monetary donations. I'm sure
we would come if you want to a meeting to share all this type of stuff and what have you, so they have a really good idea of what they're going to go out for. That would be fine.
We do have a Facebook page, Blessings in a Backpack number 1764, that has contact. We have a Gmail account. You can send us messages on the Facebook page. It does talk about how to donate there. And we do have flyers available. I sent an electronic copy to Ms. Perry. But if you would like to have some paper copies to give out and spread around, just let me know. Send us a Facebook or a Gmail message, and I'd be happy to send you flyers that, you know, have some pictures and explain about the program. And that is probably one of the most helpful things, is to raise awareness. When we started working with the program 4 years ago, I remember vividly loading up my minivan with food at Save a Lot, and somebody came out and said, "Whoa, that's a lot of food." And I said, "It's for Blessings in a Backpack." And they go, "Huh?" And that was really the kind of, you know, what we got when you said Blessings in a Backpack. Now, when I was at Save a Lot last Saturday, and I said, we're here, they are doing a register swipe, $1 at the register for Blessings in a Backpack. People say, "Oh yeah, I remember that from previous years." So I think awareness is beginning to spread in the Fulton community, and we're willing to work with anyone. It should be a community-based thing, you know?
I do have a question, because I saw one of our neighboring communities is doing an ultra run marathon for Blessings in a Backpack. I don't know if that's something that is going to touch our community or not, or if it's just going for that specific city's community Blessing in a Backpack. But it's a way that they're bringing money in to your organization. I didn't know if that was something we could maybe reach out to one of our local gyms here in town and try to set something up like that. It's like so many miles, they make so much money per mile, and then the gym donates money as well, depending. I don't know if that's something you guys have heard of, or it's the one that I'm doing is in December. So it's going to be a cold ultra marathon, but it's just, I thought it was a really neat idea, a good way to raise some money for your amazing cause.
We're open to any ideas, but each program, like Oswego raises money for them, for their program. There's 3 Blessings in a Backpack programs in Oswego County: Mexico, Oswego, and Fulton. But other school districts have other backpack weekend feeding programs run by teachers, run by parent groups. You have Aaron's Angels in Phoenix, you know, that kind of thing. So our job is to raise the money, and at $1 a kid, at 240 kids, you can do the math. So that's what we need to raise each year. We've had some very generous donors from the Fulton community.
Very generous.
We just were notified last week that we did receive a Shinneman grant. So we're grateful for the Shinneman Foundation. They have been a good supporter of ours. And, you know, we've received some other grants, and we're actively out there seeking funding, because the stronger funding we have, the better we can offer the kids.
We're more than willing, like the National Honor Society, again, we could come to that. If there's someone that wants to set up a marathon or a run for that, we'd be glad to work with any of those ideas. And as Susan says, I think if we can do them in our own community, the Fulton School District, that's a plus too.
Yeah, I'll have the kids reach out to you, as that's part of like the learning experience. So if you hear from one of them, know that it's legit.
Okay.
We're willing to help.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. It's absolutely amazing. We will follow through on a couple things. I'm also going to speak to our Director of Student Support Services as well, because obviously that's a big part, Ms. Tiffany, as well as we coordinate, you know, all of these supports. It's just another one of those essential components that we have that adds and addresses some of the wide range of needs that we have here in Fulton with our kids. So thank you so much for your service and support.
Do all the board members understand that we don't choose the children? The Fulton School District chooses the children who receive the bags.
Yeah.
So we provide, and you decide.
And going back to what you said earlier, Superintendent, we live in the Oswego School District, and we had 4 children, and all our children went through that school district and what have you. But since we've been down at Prince of Peace, the Fulton community, we're almost more Fulton people now than we are Oswego people. We shop in Fulton and everything. And the teachers we've met some of your teachers and what have you. it's been a really, it's a wonderful experience.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate all you do, and on behalf of our kids and our families, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you.
Happy
Good
Thanksgiving.
night.
Thank you. Oh, they were wonderful. Huge part of our support package. Next up is, and we will share that information as well, the flyers and all of that information. Great questions and great insights too. The more and more we can get our students involved, the better, right? Reagan and Mally, right? Molly? Yep. Okay. Strategic coherence plan, leadership. Mr. Carroll, can you put that up on the screen, please? So in keeping with our process this year, really linking and working on, really we've been starting our budget process, if you will, but this year we're really tailor-making our reports a little bit different. You remember at our last board meeting, or the previous board meeting, the 26th, I believe, we did innovation, which is a part of our strategic coherence plan, which is, one of the bookends, if you will. The other end is leadership. And so this evening, we're going to highlight the leadership section. If you could move forward, just reminding you of our mission and our vision here in the district. I'm not going to read those, but those are they're very much our outcomes and the direction that we want to accomplish for everything that we do here in Fulton. And also there on the right is our strategic coherence plan. Really, this is around how do we ensure shared commitment and collective commitment in everything we do. And we're finding more and more that you find this wheel in everything that we do. We're focusing the direction. We're cultivating that collaborative culture, the discussion. Then we're deepening that learning. And then that piece of the wheel is that securing accountability. You notice that leadership is in the center of that. And leadership comes from all different levels and parts of the organization. And so that wheel, or the way we do things, is really where do we want to go, how we're going to do it, the cultivating that culture, how do we understand, deepen that understanding, and then how are we measuring to ensure that we're on our path, and what adjustments that we need to do. So that's really everything that we're doing. And I think you'll see that throughout the course of these presentations and the work that we're doing. You're starting to see that become kind of the norm in how we approach challenges with innovative strategies for solutions. Next slide, please. The 6 areas of the plan, as I mentioned, we did innovation already, and now we're doing leadership. I want to highlight the COVID stimulus funds that are driven in our initial general plan. You'll see those percentages, and you've seen this wheel before. But we've got dedicated $905,000 of those federal stimulus funds are allocated toward the leadership areas, and those are allocated towards COVID contingency planning. Those are your school supplies, barriers, remote learning, all those kinds of things fall under that. Funding costs associated with your PPE and your public employer health emergency plan, the instructional support framework, which we're going to highlight this evening. We're going to highlight communications as well this evening, and professional development in support of the strategic coherence plan as well. So on to the next slide, please. And so the strategic intent leadership, the area we're going to focus on tonight in the first part, is going to be around our coaching models. And the strategic intent is by 2024, all school leaders will implement agreed upon systems and structures that improve individual and school-wide practices. So if you want to go on to the next slide, Mr. Carroll, and take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Palvino. So as Mr. Palvino pointed out, the leadership area of our strategic coherence plan really relates to all of the other areas. It's at the center of our plan, and it could also be thought of as an umbrella to each of the other 5 areas of literacy, instruction, social, emotional, developmental health, family engagement, and innovation. So anytime we're developing a process or a strategy or initiative towards one of the goals in those areas, those 4 pieces of leadership that Mr. Palvino mentioned, focusing direction, accountability, collaboration, deepening learning, we are very deliberate about making sure that those are foundational in what we're putting together. At one of our recent meetings, a question was asked in relation to the strategic coherence plan, is part of the goal here to make sure that we're offering the same things in all of our buildings. And that's this leadership area and those 4 principles really help us to ensure that that is exactly what we're doing. A phrase that came up again and again in developing the plan was that we're working towards being a school district and not a district of 6 schools. So again, focusing on those 4 points helps us do that. Keeping our vision in mind constantly does that as well. And so those concepts were behind development of what we call the FCSD Instructional Support Framework. Now, if you remember, and I think it was our first meeting in September, the board adopted our 2021-22 DSIP plan, our state required district comprehensive improvement plan. And as I explained at that meeting, we start in developing that 1-year plan each year. We start with our strategic coherence plan. And that really helps us to stay ahead of those single-year plans and keep us on track towards our long-term goals. So as we looked at our strategic coherence plan and also what we put together for our plans in terms of use of those stimulus funds, we saw a need to bring some coherence to those things. What we recognized is we had some separate roles, separate processes, all towards the goal of building a multi-tiered system of supports for students, but that really could use some of that coherence applied. And so through that, we developed the instructional support framework as a way of, as I say, applying those coherence principles to the roles that you see on this slide. Several of these you'll recognize as ones that have been part of our systems for years, PLC facilitators, for example. Others are ones that we had the opportunity to add or develop or enhance thanks to the stimulus funds, okay? So we have our interdisciplinary instructional specialists, our SEL success coach, restorative practices specialist, district intervention team facilitator, and our instructional coaches. So as you see those roles, you know, this is an example really of how each of those other coherence plan areas get brought together through the leadership area. Restorative practices specialists are an example of a direct student support role in the area of social, emotional, developmental health. Our interdisciplinary specialists are helping our teachers work towards those engaging instructional goals in the instruction area of our plan. And again, through that leadership coherence lens, we bring them together in a coherent way so that we can help to ensure that the experience of a student in one of our buildings is going to be very similar and offer the same outcomes as a student will receive in another one of our buildings. So from the beginning of our strategic coherence plan development, instructional coaching was a priority, and that specific support was baked right into the original plan, and it has its own strategy, 1.1C. So I'm going to now introduce Renee Hendrickson, our Director of Literacy in UPK. Mrs. Hendrickson is the best person to speak to our instructional coaching model, as she is the one who works most closely supervising coaches and helping them to develop their model. So Mrs. Hendrickson.
Thank you. I'm very excited tonight to have the opportunity to share with you the work that the coaches have done. I'm incredibly lucky to work with 9 dedicated coaches that are excited to join forces with the teachers. This is an example of the image that they worked on at the beginning of the year to really capture what coaching looks like. And at the heart of that is supporting teachers to empower all learners and really developing a partnership to reach those goals. And this is achieved through whatever venue or avenue that the teacher wants. They're the driver in that, but it's about partnering up together. And around the outside of that, you'll see the instructional priorities that have been identified in our strategic coherence plan that are the foundation that we develop our strategies on to meet those needs for our students. On the next slide, you'll notice that along with the other goals in our strategic coherence plan, this one has a goal of the coaches focusing 80% of their time with direct coaching support. Below is a list of all the activities, and we like to call them menus items for teachers to choose in working together. I think the best way to capture what coaching looks like is to watch a video that the coaches and I have put together for you.
Stuck in the middle of the sea. I'm saying what to find you. If you find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of. We are called to help our friends and keep. You can't count on me now. 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you. Like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. Cause that's what friends are supposed to do. Ooh. You're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep. I'll sing the song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, now what we're made of. We are called to help our friends and keep. You can't count on me now. 1, 2, 3, we did. And I love when I need it, I can count on you. 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. Cause that's what friends are supposed to do. Oh yeah. And I love when I need it, I can count on you. Like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. Cause that's what friends are supposed to do.
Oh. Bring it back. There we are.
Renee, what do you think the greatest impact that you're seeing with the coaching? I mean, there's a lot of information there, but is there anything that really sticks out to you that after having this model for a while, and kind of growing? I know we had a bit of a challenge with the pandemic, but what do you feel? I mean, you've been in the role of coach and now the leader of the coaches. You know, is there one thing that pops for you?
I like to think of coaching as the ripple effect. I think when a coach and teacher are successful and developing a strategy that works, that the spread of that, you know, it's shared then in that grade level, it's shared at a PLC, it's shared at a district level. So, and that's starting from the ground roots that develops that. So that impact of something that really works is what I think is probably the most impact, or I guess the most beneficial of coaching.
Yep.
It's about that partnership, and it's driven by teachers. So I think that increases buy-in and then allows for opportunities for other teachers to reach out for coaching as well.
Yeah. You know, I think of sports teams when I think about, you know, coaching. That's what people really think about is athletics. But also when you really think about getting better, we've got life coaches, we've got professional coaches, we've got all sorts of coaches in the world. And I believe, you know, the coaches help us get that feedback and make us better. And make us better at our art and our craft and what we're doing with our kids. So, you know, my experience with coaching exactly is what that is, the way you described that, Renee. So thank you to all the coaches and all the work that you're doing in this area and the leadership that you're providing in this area. The impacts are going to be not only now, but down the road, because you're developing and that foundation, you know, and allows us to really target kids' needs and really dig in and do what we need to do. So it's a great support and resource for our teachers. So thank you. The second part really focuses on strategic intents around leadership, is around the staff, student, and family response to district surveys will agree or strongly agree with the statement. The Fulton City School District provides accurate, timely, and meaningful communication. And so on the next slide, you'll see that there are many different areas. We've really been working on this. Our new system that we're using allows for, in the past, we had separate components, and Dr. Lisa, you can jump in, but they would be more separate. Now they're actually linked. So when we send out a blast of information, we actually can coherently connect them together. And that information then goes out into our community through multiple modalities. And I think that's really, you can see, you know, the chart there on the right-hand side, the different modalities that we approach and that we utilize. And I think that's been a much more effective use of our time. And that's been the feedback. Obviously, one of the things that we're continuing to do is also the consistency in our strategies. So for example, you know, Remind is a great example. One of the applications that we use, that's being applied from pre-K all the way up through 12th grade. That's an example where in the past, we would talk to a parent and they might say, well, in the elementary school, they do it this way. In the middle school, they do it this way, or the junior high and at the senior high this way. So now we have more consistency. And what we're trying to do is create a more consistent package of communication support. So it's a work in progress. You know, the focus is on centralization, efficiency, and creating, you know, a normed way of communicating that provides the information necessary to not only our families, but our community. So
what's the percent? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Lynn.
What's the percentage that we reach out to in our community as far as families go in our district? Is it quite good?
Yeah, Dr. Lisi, do you want to comment on that?
Well, that's a great question, Ms. Lyons. So one of the things that we worked hard to accomplish when we first started this process was, I'm sorry, Alexa went off when I said that.
That is a very good question.
I apologize.
I don't have the answer to that.
Sorry about that. So one of the things we were trying to do was to make sure that we had the proper contact information for all of our constituents. So that was our first goal in the process. So, and part of that process was also to make sure that we use various venues. You know, there was a time when websites were the preliminary way of reaching folks to put everything on our website to make sure they could access it. But we recognized very quickly through this process that social media was popular, that Facebook, you know, with Facebook, we use texting as part of that process now. And we've been really trying to get folks to download our app because we rely on that as well. So it would be difficult to really measure how many folks we're actually meeting, how many of our constituents, but we've been really actively trying to keep their contact information updated for that purpose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lisi, just to give me an idea, what at our applications, how many of our families or how many subscribers do we have to our application for FCSD communications?
Sure. Right now we had over 1,700 downloads of our app, which is quite impressive.
So we'll continue to work on making sure that parents are aware. You can see all the different modalities that we use there on the right-hand side. I won't read through those. If you've been looking at our family communications and our staff communications that I share with the board, I see the November 18th one there in the center. We're starting to use, and Jerry's been a big part of that. Ms. Geithner's been putting that together. That's a Google kind of approach, correct, Ms. Geithner? Is that the right one? Yep. And so it's much more user-friendly. Those of you who know me best, I use too many words. And so we're trying to reduce the number of words and really try to be more targeted with our communication, providing that key information and not providing so many words. And so I think that's something that we're working on. That's some of the feedback. Give us the targeted information, easy access, easily understood, and easily to understand what's next. And I think that's constantly the goal that we're seeking as we move along. So there's a lot of different applications and approaches there on the right-hand side. If you look where we were 5 years ago, the work that the communications team did as part of the strategic coherence plan, and where we're now, we've really evolved quite a ways. So.
And I would just like to say, from the standpoint of the communications committee for the strategic intent, listening to what parents, I noticed on here, video messaging, because we heard that some parents' time is critical, so they multitask. So it would be nice to have some messages come at them in a form where they could listen to it while they're preparing dinner, or helping their, getting things ready for the next family task that they're about to take on. So it's been an attempt to try to make sure that we have two-way feedback.
Yep.
So it's very important to us as a district to make sure that people are letting us know what works for them, and we'll try to meet that need.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, something that we're dabbling in right now, because one of the powerful words in the phrase for this one is the reciprocal exchange of information. I think that's a key element, and that's a real struggle. One of the elements one of the strategies we're looking at, we actually are exploring the use of Let's Talk. It's an application that actually, in my previous world, they had just started it. It was very good in my former role. What it does is it provides some opportunity for exchange back and forth. It keeps really a log of everything that goes back and forth, but it starts to create that ability in that exchange of meaningful reciprocal exchange of information. And then the other pieces we're looking at, there are thought exchanges out there, some different kinds of pieces. I'm sure some of you that may serve in other districts have some other platforms that you're utilizing, but there's some good software out there that I think that's the one area in this area of communication that we haven't expounded upon enough. And I believe there's a world of potential around trying to find ways for reciprocal exchange of information. And the best way to have that is when you can do it kind of 24/7, because people have different things that they're doing with their lives and have different opportunities. So it offers another opportunity to ensure that we're providing. And I think the surveys have been extremely important to us. And I believe that was something we need to really get back to more consistently. And although I don't enjoy seeing myself on a video, the feedback I get is people like the videos as well. So we can get back to that. We have one of our schools that's reading like the newsletter, so parents can actually listen to the newsletter being read. So on the family communications, things like that. So those are the kinds of things that I think we need to continue to grow. Communication is something we should never say, wow, we've got it. It's always got to be, we're continuing to try to find ways to improve that.
Brian, can you talk a little bit about how our coaches are connected to our teachers? Because there are only 9 of them, of course, and we have a lot of staff. So is it that they are working with our probationary teachers, or how do our teachers who have been with us a long time have access to them?
Yeah, I'm going to ask actually, Renee. Do you want to respond to that? I have the answer, but I'd rather hear you say it because you work with it every day.
Sure. Each of the coaches has identified a band of teachers that they work with. And within that band, they've reached out in different ways. There was a letter that went out. There is, in the video, if you saw, a survey. It's at an instructional coaching menu. So based on that, teachers could fill in and select what area they would like to focus on, what the best time of the day is. A lot of the teachers now are reaching out different ways, creating, like you saw in the video too, a bingo to provide opportunities for teachers to engage with different mini PDs. They're visiting PLCs. They're following up and doing check-ins with teachers through emails, walking in the hallway, checking in, saying hi, before school, after school. I would say a lot of ways that they're reaching out right now. And then for the new probationary teachers, focusing in with them right now to make sure they're all set with different things that might be coming up or they need support with around report card time for any assessments, analyzing those. So they're getting out there through a variety of ways.
Thank you.
And we're planning on getting feedback mid-semester, Mr. Cordone. I think it's a great, we wanted to get about a semester under our belts, and then we'll start to get that feedback about, like we always do, and gather it. Is it what's working, what's really well, and how do we replicate? And then what are the areas that we can improve upon? And then it's constantly learning and growing.
I was sort of thinking along those same lines too, Dave. So we're talking about coaches and collaborating and coaches being a part of an athletic team. And so of course my mind goes to, all right, so we have a plan as a team and usually it's the same game plan. So we have instructional specialists, like let's just say K3, but they're shared amongst all of our elementary schools, right? Like all of them. So when they, like, let's say Lanigan and Granby are reaching out to the instructional specialist, do they share, is it common strategies, like a coherence? Like, are we, I don't know. I know in Phoenix, we use the LFS model. Like we always have an essential question that we go by, and then people call it different things. Do we go by like the same models? Are we using like the same types of strategies amongst all the buildings? Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, Dan or Renee, do you want to comment?
Yes, the heart of the coaching is based on the instructional priorities, which I think they're gonna present later on in another board meeting. And actually, everyone makes fun of me because I'm a primary teacher and I laminate things, so I just pull things out. So here's the list. So this is really the heart of it, and so we gear things towards that. And again, it's a partnership, so it's an entry point where the teacher really talks about what they need, and so the coaches are really developing their PD on asking open, honest questions to help guide that focus on what they need to work on. So maybe a teacher wants to work on targets. That's a goal across the whole district, and how they implement targets or check for targets can be where it's differentiated and based on style. Is it embedded in a PowerPoint? Is it posted in the room? Is it on their desk? That part is the creativeness and finding out what matches the teaching style. So these 7 priorities are what's consistent. And if we start to see trends that we're noticing in classrooms, we may come back to the table and say, all right, what are our foundation curriculum that we need to maybe reinforce or provide mini PD on? Do we need to come back to talking about letter sounds and articulation or something like that? I go to primary first, but all of that is definitely grounded in a consistent framework. Does that help answer? And we meet a lot to debrief. What are we seeing? What message are you sending, to make sure we're very consistent?
Additional piece that Mrs. Hendrickson has made sure of is that each of the coaches has a very similar caseload, the same amount of teachers, which helps to ensure that all of the teachers have equitable access. And when she developed those caseloads, she not only looked at the number of teachers that were on there, but also factored in within that group how many are first-year teachers to help ensure that they do have the opportunity for additional support.
Great questions.
And so again, I would just say that I think that when you visit the schools, if you get that opportunity, the thing I've noticed in more modern times for me is that I can go from classroom to classroom, and I've noted that the same words are to be found in the classroom on bulletin boards or on a blackboard, different spaces, but they're the same words from classroom to classroom, which we didn't used to see, whether it's literacy or math. And I find that very interesting because there was a time that wasn't the case. So I do think that for me as a layperson, it tells me that what the investment we're making into the training, it appears outwardly very much so that it's working because we're using the same language.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ms. Gray. I think you also see similar strategies going on, similar discussions in professional learning communities. You're seeing that consistency across the schools more and more. And we saw it really kicking in right before COVID. And then obviously we were dealing with it, but I think we're quickly getting back on the rails and getting back to where we were. And I think you'll start to see that again. I think that's the foundational piece. And the coaching provides that collective commitment, the connections, the supports, to be able to help each person where they're at stay the course and get the supports they need to be successful with each one of our kids.
I think one of the coolest things to see is, and I think the bridge really symbolizes that, is connecting teachers in different buildings to develop strategies. You know, I think of 2 second grade teachers where one traveled over to another building to watch what she was implementing and brought it back to her building. And, you know, and that happened because the coaches saw that need and connected these 2 teachers and allowed them to support each other. So I think that's one of the neat things with the coaches, is they're getting around to all the buildings and can connect teachers to help each other.
And that's pretty telling to the program too, that teachers are willing to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm really struggling here. Can you help? And then to go into somebody else's classroom, especially as a veteran teacher, and say, oh my gosh, I really like that, and then bring it back. So that's telling, very telling. So that's great. That's awesome.
I know we often refer this to coaching with athletes, but as a teacher, your classroom is very personal and you're by yourself with your students. You don't have an audience being critiqued. So allowing someone come in is really does speak to the teacher's trust and being vulnerable.
Any other questions? So it just gives you a real good snapshot of where we're driving those funds and how we're trying to increase the supports for our staff and for our students. So very good. Thank you, Mr. Carroll and Ms. Hendrickson. The next part of the superintendent's report is the timeline for the annual budget. I'll quickly put it up. You saw it at the last meeting, and I'll just make sure that we take one final look here if there's any questions. I think that's where we are. Let's see. So tell me if you can see. I never know when I can never see what you see. So you see that all right? Okay. So just to remind you, we did one of the feedback, piece of the feedback we got was to add the October 26th. If you remember, we had started at the 9th to draw attention to the fact that we did the Strategic Coherence Plan Innovation on October 26th. We added, if we go, we talked about, right now we have a tentative Board of Education budget workshop. I'm going to talk about another date not related to the budget, but in the capital improvement in just a few minutes for discussion around that, a possible quick special board meeting for that. But if we go through, there's a tentative board meeting. We'll keep our fingers crossed that Governor Hochul is more timely than our previous governor. It's always been, I think by statute, it's the 20th or 21st that we have to have a budget. So I'm hoping the 18th sets us up nicely. We'll know more clearly probably after the first of the year when we start to find out where exactly the state budget is and in their process. I'm hoping that it comes out right around that date. That would be terrific. If not, we will focus for that evening on the budget parameters, which is perfect timing as we get ready. So hopefully we'll have some numbers to look at, as well as finalizing the budget parameters. If we don't have the budget parameters, we have the opportunity either for a workshop or a stakeholder budget committee, and we'll work that out closer because we do have a budget or a regular board meeting on the 25th that could serve that purpose and then lead us in. So a little bit as things get clearer, we will be able to more clearly identify which dates and what to do on these dates, but we will start to assemble the stakeholder budget committee as well. And then we go down through same kinds of things. You'll see nothing has really changed from the last time, but you'll see each time we'll be highlighting, for example, literacy at the next meeting. When we get back after the holidays, the focus will be on instruction, and then social emotional developmental health, and then family engagement. And then if you remember in April, just to remind you, we have a regular scheduled board meeting on April 5th. We added in that April 19th being our regular board meeting, where we'll tentatively adopt the FCSD budget, and then also the school property tax report. And then if you remember, we're going to make the 25th a short meeting because we need to address the city BOCES component district budget vote is required on a certain date, and that happens to be the 25th of April. But that timing was really a bit too late for budget adoption because the tax report is actually due before the 25th. So that's why we made that adjustment. Budget forum will be on the 3rd, and then we'll go forward. The budget vote is on the 17th with hopefully the ratification of a approved budget and the election results from that evening. So are there any questions? You saw this at the last board meeting, but we made the adjustments based on the feedback at the last meeting.
Brian, is there any word yet on either NYSBA's association, their capital conference, and also the usual small cities meeting that takes place along the same time in that process, just so that we are getting information to make those meetings, nearby more meaningful?
Yep. I will get that information, Mr. Cordone. We have not received any information on the dates for those two as of yet, but I will confirm.
NYSBA did send us stuff.
that one?
I don't know. You should have gotten it, I would think, David. I don't know. I did get something from NYSBA. They're going to do a virtual, and then they're going to follow the virtual with meeting with legislators in Albany, like in the past. But they are going to do a virtual.
It's virtual, and it's usually the beginning of February.
I want to say it's February 2nd.
I'm trying to think the date. Yeah. But it was in our email. I'll try to find it, Brian.
I will provide it. I can provide it in tomorrow's update. I'll provide that information, and we can add it to this calendar as well, just so it's in one place.
In small cities, I haven't seen anything yet. So
yeah, I'm wondering about that one because that tends to offer different information.
Yes.
But good information.
Yes.
Yeah, the board of directors has not discussed that because I sit on that. So I will follow up with small cities and get some information. Get it on Mr. Lynch's plate as the executive director there. We'll make sure that if I missed it, I'll get it. If not, it'll get on there. So any other questions? Great points. Thank you. All righty. The monthly financial report, Ms. Nichols and Dr. Lisi. Do you want me to put that up, or do you want to? I'm not sure. I can
put that up.
Excuse me? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Nichols, can you see that all right?
Yes, I can. Can you
If
hear
you
me?
can make it any bigger, that would be helpful. It's always a little bit small, but if you can't, I understand.
don't think we can do that in this venue. Sorry.
Yeah, it is on board docs. It is one of the documents there as well for board and for public.
All right, well, this is again from Forecast 5, presenting our information as of the end of October. With the revenues, we're right in line with where we were last year. Nothing really remarkable there. Our pilots are slightly lower this year, just as the Sunoco or Addis pilot has been discontinued. And then moving on to the expenditures, one thing to note is that our salaries look like they're running a little bit higher. That will be adjusted when you see the November report, because we still had to move a few of the salaries onto the federal grants, the ARP grant, and so you'll see a very clean copy in November, and also we'll be able to bring you more information on those the federal dollars. The only other really item of note would be under contractual. We did have additional BOCES spending, which just raised it almost 500,000 more than we would have spent last year at this time. And that's just because we're able to use BOCES financing, either generate BOCES aid or just use their cooperative purchasing to work on some of the projects that we do. So overall, October isn't a real remarkable month, but does anyone have any questions on where we are as of the end of October? All right.
I was going to comment on just one thing that Ms. Nichols brought up, and I know normally I get that question, so I'm going to anticipate it. Addis was brought up as one of the pilots. They are no longer in business. Our attorneys, I discussed with our attorneys last week, they are working with the county attorneys on strategy. The local, IDA, is not really doing anything with it. However, I know the county attorneys and our attorney are working together. In fact, one of the legislators reached out to me as well and wanted to make sure I was aware that Addis was out there and these conversations going on. So I appreciate the legislator that did reach out to us from the county. And I promptly called our attorney to make sure that we were in sync. So that's what that is. And that's to the tune, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Nichols, I believe that's approximately $372,000 on that pilot.
It's definitely over 300, so you're probably right on target.
Yeah, normally I'm pretty good with my numbers. That one I think is what it was. It was going up a little bit each year, so it is a key piece of change. It doesn't look like a lot in a $77 million budget, but when you add up those revenues and everything coming in, it does. It's one of those components. So we're watching very closely, and we're working with our attorneys on the best solution for that. So I did speak with her last week, and I will get an update with her. She was saying it would be about 10 to 12 days, and she would be hearing back from the county attorney, and we're probably just about at the end of that window. So Ms. Perry, if you could remind me, I wrote it down, but remind me to call attorney tomorrow.
Brian, did I hear you say that they were now out of business? Is that what you said?
I believe so. They're no longer there. My understanding is just the holdings are there over there, the buildings and that type of thing. But
so
my understanding is there isn't much going on according to our attorney. Again, that was her verbiage.
Can we find out if there's been a change in the assessment?
I will find out.
Because
that's actually one of the questions that I had asked Catherine, our attorney.
Oftentimes that can change when a business shuts down. So it would be important for us to know if that's changed. Correct. And then the difference that we don't have a pilot is the county is now responsible to make us whole on their assessed taxes if they don't. So we have the loss of what they didn't pay from when they were on the pilot, and there's a potential loss if the assessments dropped.
Is that correct, Miss Nichols? You always say it better than I do. This is an area where.
No, that would be accurate. I'm not positive when it went back on the tax rolls.
Right. Okay.
So I will get an update from our attorney. If she's in
Thank you.
tomorrow, I'm in tomorrow, so I will reach out. And if she's not, she will get back to me, I'm sure, by Monday. Give me an update, because we did have she was going to let me know within that 10 to 12-day window. She was supposed to hear back from the county attorney about some strategy.
All right. Well, thank you.
County, of course, also has a stake in this. So
absolutely. Well, absolutely they do, because they're on the hook to us now. And also what they've lost. I mean, the county loses too. This is significant, as well as the town.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So I just
Thanks.
I knew I'd get that question, so I figured I'd talk about it before it got asked, because I knew Addis has come up before. So, all right. Are there any other questions with respect to the monthly financial? Very good. Next up is the the capital project update. And let me grab my sheet here. A couple good things. I've been asked just to give you some updates from 1A and 1B. The flagpole is lit out here in front of the junior high. I noticed that at 5 a.m. this morning when I came over to see check to see where our snow was at and see how our crews were really doing on our first day with really some snow and some removal. And it was great seeing our crews out there today. Mother Nature cooperated very nicely. It wasn't one of the curveballs where we got lots of the snow between 5 and 7. We got the snow a little bit closer and finished up around 3. So the crews, when I got here around 5:15 at each of the schools, they were well underway. A number of the schools were already completed. So please, but I did notice and take note that the junior high flagpole was lit and the flag was up. And so good to see. I know the pole is up at Volney as well. That's a question that came up, I believe, at our last board meeting. The last notes I have, which were about a week ago at our meeting, indicated that the electrical had been run to it, but they were working on the connection. So I need to check, is power connection still pending, or is it? I didn't take note of that when I drove over this morning. I didn't notice the pole. I was looking a little bit down to the left there instead. So that's good news. So we're really working on the punch lists on the bus loop entrance. If you remember, we reopened it up here about 6 feet here at the junior high. That's been taken care of. So that's been taken care of as well. The fire alarm upgrades are well underway with the start at G. Ray Bodley. And then next up down the road here will be Granby and Lanigan, and really trying to ensure that our fire alarms are really state of the art. And they're also, what we're doing is we have consistent systems so that if we have different maintenance or custodial working, those systems are now consistent. For example, at the high school, we have multiple systems in a building that don't talk to each other. And so now, you're working with different systems that monitor and keep everybody safe, but it'll be nice to have one system that's, we'll actually be able to determine what head, if there's an issue, is having an issue, or what one is actually going off, not zoned, but we'll actually know the heads. So much improved and should improve our efficiency. The other piece that we worked on is that the GRB, the high school turf and track, and all the mechanical work, those went out to bid today. And the process is going to run through December the 22nd. And then what we'll do is between the 22nd of December, we'll do an opening on the 22nd is the initial plan. When I talked to our architects this morning. And then we'll go from there as far as the awards. And then one of the things that LaChase, our project manager, our construction manager, had asked us was, could we consider having a special board meeting on the 4th, which would be, I believe, that Tuesday when we get back. The reasoning for that, and I think you heard a little bit of it when we had the discussion with respect to blessings in the backpack this evening, when she talked about the supply chain for something as simple but needed as a staple of the applesauce. The issue is that we want to get in the conduit and in the ordering parts of the system as soon as you can. You want to get those awards. You want to start getting on people's timelines as far as the contractors. But more importantly, it's not necessarily the contractors are as hard to get right now as and on their schedules, as much as can you get the product. and all of the aspects of a product. It's not as simple as just getting the HVAC machinery. There's all sorts of other equipment that goes along with that, whether it's the switches, all the electrical aspects, the boards, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of components to this, and we've noticed it. You've heard about it a little bit. I'm sure you're seeing it and hearing about it just in everyday lives. You're hearing about access to supply lines and what's available and what's not, and being able to get to that. So that's so we're starting that process. So I would ask the board to consider a brief meeting on the 4th. We could do a 6 or 6:30 meeting, and the sole purpose of that meeting would be to award the bids to the bidders who have been then vetted to make sure they meet all the requirements and all the aspects of that, and then award those so they can now start to map out their work and then also get the ordering process done. Speaking of the ordering process, we did spend a day late September, early October, I believe it was, and we had multiple turf companies come in and do a presentation. We had King & King, LaChase, our athletic director, board member, superintendent, coach, were all a part of that. In the end, and it's interesting, A-Turf, which is the turf that we actually presently have, and many comment they think it's brand new now. You'll have visitors say that on our fields. It's in such good shape. But it was also the best quality. That when that decision was made over a decade ago, obviously a good one. It was a high quality turf. It also matches well with the infrastructure. They understand the system that's there, the matting in particular. If the matting is good and there's no damage, or if it's in good shape, we may not have to change parts of that matting. It may be good. It doesn't wear out. So we'll get a better idea when they go under that. So that could be a possible cost savings. More importantly, their product matches the matting. So that's a good thing, and our infrastructure is set up. So they're also very responsive to our needs. And Chris, you can jump in. Turf's a whole lot bigger, in your realm than mine, but correct me if I'm wrong. And then we're going to use state contract. The reason why we're going to use state contract is that, let's say a different company came in and say, we can underbid you by $100,000. We may not want that product. So we're going to go with state bid, state contract for A-Turf. That allows us to make sure that we're getting the product that we've been extremely happy with. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Chris. It seems like the feedback we've gotten on our turf has been very positive.
Absolutely. So, everybody comments on our field. People are really surprised it is, over a decade old. We do take really good care of it. But the service from A-Turf is second to none. Whenever I've had a problem, a question, I call our sales rep, who is now vice president of the company. He was only the sales rep when he put it in, but he's now vice president of the company. Whenever I have a question, I don't ever have to leave a message because he always picks up my phone calls, always is able to, answer my calls. We had a small tear in our turf, and the guy was out within 12 hours to fix it. Came right out, fixed it, stitched it back up, and we're good to go for the game that day. And it wasn't that big of a tear where it was going to impact our games, but their service was incredible. And as they've progressed over the past decade or so, his attention to detail, and he showed it in a lot of his pictures in his presentation. His attention to detail was so much greater than the other companies, being able to inlay the lines and making sure that they're 90 degrees. And he really paid attention to all of the details of our field. So it is, I'm very happy that we're going to be working with somebody that we have already built a good relationship with.
Yeah, I think Chris Braz, he really, in those presentations, they separated themselves with their craftsmanship and the level of commitment they have to their product. I mean, they are so proud of their product and what it can do, and how the attention to detail, as Chris said, was unbelievable. To show literally how they get on their hands and knees and stitch this together, it was unbelievable. And you started to see how they separated themselves from others. So it was pretty impressive. I want to just quickly show our current field and just show you the rendition that they're working from right now. So our current field, just to remind you, and if you can see that well or not, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Oops, too big. Right now, our current is a block F with stars, nothing in the end zones. The work for the base that they're going to work with is the block F. This block F actually matches the block F that our students get, our student athletes receive, and then Fulton in the end zones. February would be the time when we start to lock in the field, the final, pieces as it goes to product lines. So this is the product they're working from, and we'll go from there. So just wanted to share that with all of you. I think that, the work that's gone into this turf, the most important part of this is high quality turf. And, for me, it's how do you keep kids from being injured? How do you keep kids safe on the fields? And the products all had high rates, but this one seemed to also separate itself as well there too. That stuck out to us as well. Any questions? So I guess I need to come back and ask a question. January 4th, is the board amenable to considering a brief special board meeting to hopefully award the contracts for the different companies to do the work? A week doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be.
I'm good.
It would be very brief. Is everybody okay?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be.
I have a quick question though. What's the timeline for the completion of this? Like how long does this whole process take?
So that's a great question. One, I wanted to say I got an email from, they've announced the bid early this morning. They already had 4 different vendors already asking us. So right now that we're bidding at a good time. So that's good news. The second is as soon as we complete graduation, the last event, maybe I should say the last event on the field in June, the idea is to get rocking and rolling so that we're ready to roll end of August with our sports. That's the goal. Great question. That's one I should have answered. Thank you, Ms. Papalardo. Any other questions? And I will add the 4th to the meeting. And then finally, I just want to give a brief COVID report. I don't know if any of you those of you who have kids or grandchildren that went through, may have gotten their vaccinations. It was just outstanding seeing the Department of Health on Friday afternoon, once again, working at G. Ray Bodley, and watching little ones, which, going through that process. And I was thrilled for our families that we offered that opportunity. And I think that we're in a time where families are really thinking through things and making the best decisions for their families. And this provided an opportunity within our district for families that chose to go this direction. What was outstanding, though, is as the kids checked in and they received their vaccination, in the 15-minute waiting area, I had my booster. I got to sit at the Walgreens and wait for 15 minutes, while they waited. The kids actually got to have crayons, crayon books. The parents sat with them in these clusters with their kids. We had a movie going. There was music going. It was so it decompressed the kids after something that could create some anxiety. So I thought it was terrific. I thought they did a great job. I had an opportunity to talk to both Chris and Diane Oldenburg from DOH that day. I thought it was a great day. I don't know, Chris, you want to comment on that? I'm not sure in the end. I actually didn't get the final number of kids that went through. I wasn't sure. I don't know if you know that or not. I was going to.
I do believe that the final number was right up around 150 students, ages 5 to 11 that came in. And that was DOH, recommended, giving them an area separate from where they're getting their shots, to be able to decompress and to be able to, get their mind off of something else. And, they came right out watching the movie, coloring, and it was, as Mr. Polvino said, a shot in the movie right at GRB. So
yeah, the families really, the families were it actually helped them relax too, to see families just sitting and coloring together while they were waiting. It was really kind of fun. So it was kind of neat. I enjoyed that. And then I got to give kudos to our nurses and Chris. They stepped up. Room number 7 or door number 7 at Landigan Elementary School is now a functional testing area. And the nurses, that initial, oh my God, can we do this? They processed through it. I got to be over there the day before. On Tuesday, they were getting it set up, and along with Chris. And then on Wednesday, I went over, and they were starting that first day, and they were going right out to the cars and doing the swabbing right outside. The weather was very cooperative. Same thing happened Thursday and Friday. We're just starting to get all the results back and working our way through it. We're learning. Sending tests off, it adds another layer to that. But I thought the first week went well. Golden Sun went extremely well. We did last Monday as well as yesterday. Any days we're in session, we tested. Of course, our pool testing is Wednesday through Fridays. We're looking at, after the first couple of weeks, we'll say, is this the best schedule? We'll kind of look at that. We'll and see what's working best for us at that time. So I think we're off to a decent start. ID now, Mrs. Hayden, who works down in our business office, she's on a daily basis, contacting the company for the ID now test. We got the 2 machines. We want the test. That's our symptomatic testing. I believe that'll be a game changer for us, access to that. If we don't get it in timely, we may start to think about how we can use maybe the Binax or something else if we need to, but we really need to look. But the ID now, I'm encouraged. It seems like there's not one more hurdle we need to clear other than getting them here. So that's the update on the testing, but very proud of the work that our nurses did. They're amazing work. And then we'll get cranked up right after the holiday and round 2. And then I'm sure they'll get better and better as we go along. The feedback we've gotten has been very positive. And when I've talked to the nurses, I don't know, Chris, if you'd add to that, but people seem comfortable with the process
Yeah, our nurses are doing a great job with that. It was funny to watch them on Tuesday, not really sure on how these tests or how everything was going to operate, and just working through those procedures and just watching their anxiety, really decrease after the first couple came through, and by Friday came along. They're so efficient. They're so quick on making changes that they're right out to the cars. People don't even have to get out of their car. They can do the test. They come back in and are able to record, and they're so efficient at what they're doing, and they've already found ways to make it a little bit smoother, a little bit better for them. So it is a great little center that we have set up. Door 7, Lanigan, unfound room that we found, and converted it back over into a usable space. Is going to be a pretty nice area for our community to be able to get tested and get back into action.
Yep. And we're one step, I think, also getting the lawyers together with the contract for the Department of Health. That was something I wish I had pushed about 6 or 8 weeks ago. But all the district's attorneys got together with apparently the county's attorney, and they've hammered out some of those issues that they had. So we should have that final contract. And one of the things that we hopefully built in there, at least our attorney has indicated that it's in there, is that it'll be retroed back to July 1st, because they kept saying the funds could be held up based on when the contract was signed. It's like, no. Part of this was held up because of political red tapes and different things like that. So I think we've rectified that situation within the contract as well. So very happy about that. And with that, I wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and I turn it back over to the board president. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4.01, accepting our financial reports for October.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perriami, yes.
Mr. Cordone?
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons?
Yes.
Mrs. Elbegor?
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo?
Yes.
And Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Item 5.02 is the first reading of policies. Are there any questions on the policies that are before us tonight?
Just if Mr. Palvino would like to highlight any of the changes.
Brian, did you hear the request?
Talking to myself, I forgot to turn my microphone on. Sorry. Yeah, I have no comments on these. There were no significant changes in these. When the ones we bring in, probably not the first meeting in January, possibly the second meeting in January, we're working on a number of those. We're digging into the 9,000s which is all of our really HR. So Jerry has really appreciated the fact that I decided 9,000s was the area we were going to focus on. But I thought it was also good timing because we have a couple of, we're starting to come around, hard to believe, into contracts again. Hard to believe we're starting to the end contracts are ending. We're starting to negotiate into that rotation. So I thought it was a good time for us to look at the 9,000s and then make sure if there's language in contracts and things like that, policy, contract, can then start to reflect each other. So 9,000s are up.
David, there was lots of questions asked at the policy meeting, so they're really diving into it.
Yeah, we have good
Thank
meetings. I
you.
mean, I think we're doing a good job. I want to thank you. Great. It's a really good point, Lynn. The policy committee, we got going the other night, an hour and 15 minutes lasted it seemed like it was 5 minutes. So we covered a lot. So thank you for serving along with others. It's a great team.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving along to item 6.01, we're to approve recommendations from the Committee on Special Education.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes.
About just like verbiage used. When it says grade and then it says ungraded, what does that mean? Does anybody know? Grade, it says it's usually like in 8th grade or 12th grade, but when it says ungraded, I don't know what that means.
So a great example of ungraded students would be students with significant disabilities. So kids that are in 12 1-4 classrooms, students that, for example, may take the alternative assessments as opposed to the standardized assessments. Yep.
I wasn't sure about what that meant. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Item 6.02 is to approve lead evaluators of classroom teachers.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Item 7.01, accepting a resignation.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Item 7.02, accepting the leave of absences as recommended by the superintendent. They're unpaid. Tim,
Move it.
moved it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Item 7.03 is to appoint the community school program teachers and teaching assistants as recommended by the superintendent. Someone want to move it?
I'll move it. Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Abstain.
Mrs. Alvagore,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
I wondered if my colleagues are interested in batching items 7.4 through 7.07, and these are all appointments for monitors, aides, unpaid volunteers for coaching, custodial and maintenance employees, and such.
Move
Move
it.
it. Second.
Any discussion on any of these items? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone,
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville,
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons,
Yes.
Mrs. Albagor,
Yes.
Mrs. Capilardo,
Yes.
and Mr. Crandall.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Perry. Mr. Crandall, you want to kick off board forum?
Sure. Well, I want to thank everyone for their presentations. Things seem to be going pretty good. I'm no expert, but it looks good. And I just hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. That's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Mainville.
I would like to thank all the teachers and the TAs for giving the 100% to all of our students every single day. It's definitely been a tough year. So to put on your game face every day and just put everything else aside and be there for all of our students is just awesome. So thank you for that. Really excited about the blessings in a backpack. That was a really great presentation, and it was just so nice to hear from the Traubs and to know that our students can get involved. I think that would be like a great community service learning project for them. And I'd also like to thank, I don't know who was involved with it, but I know that there was a lot of concern about the pickup loop at the junior high. And I know Mr. Palvino was involved with making it a lot better today. I've gotten a lot of feedback from some concerned community members, and they said it was so much better today, and just the fast action that was taken and have it taken seriously and something to be and having something done about it immediately. So it's very telling for our district. So I'm really appreciative of that. I myself drove by at 2:30 and it was great. There wasn't any, backup on the road, and you were able to take that right into the parking lot for pickup. So I was appreciative of that. So thank you. And I hope everybody has a Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Cordone.
Much the same. It's always great. Blessings in a Backpack has been around for a long time, and it's always inspiring to see what happens at the grassroots level of our community. So I appreciate that ministry and that mission. And thank you for the update, all of the updates from the superintendent's report this evening. Thanks. That's it.
Reagan.
I think everybody basically covered everything, but I do want to thank teachers and students and you for everything that they do. That is it.
Thank you. Mrs. Abelgore.
Seems like my colleagues have pretty much said a lot of what I was thinking this evening. I really appreciated the update on the blessing in a backpack. It's huge in our community, and I just love all that they're doing. The Trouds are doing a wonderful job for our students, and that's great. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Papalardo.
Hi. So we kind of touched on the recognition of our technology team, and along with that and the communication, I don't know how many of you are aware that don't have kids in the district that we do, or don't have kids currently in school, that we're doing something called a s'more newsletter that I just don't think has gotten enough recognition. I love the layout of it. I think it's short and sweet. It keeps us updated. I really like the consistency that it's the same format for all of the schools. And I love that. And I would actually love to receive all the ones from the different schools just to kind of keep myself updated. But that's really cool. And I just don't think we touched on that. So thanks to the grounds and maintenance staff for keeping the parking lots plowed and the sidewalks safe for our kids. We're coming up in that season where people are just going to complain about stuff. And I just want to make sure that you know that we appreciate what you're doing and being out there when it's really cruddy weather. So, and also as a non-school person, thank you to Renee and Dan. The information that we got on the instructional coaches was super helpful. Again, especially for someone like myself who doesn't really understand what the coaches are for. And I know that the district, invested a lot of money into them, and I'm really glad that they're well received and that their peers are, benefiting from it and stuff. So that's it. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. And Mrs. Lyons. I can't hear you, Mrs. Lyons. Are you talking?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Anyways, everybody said everything that I was thinking, except for thanking the personnel at Golden Sun for the recognition and everything they did do to get meals to all the kids. I think that's awesome that as a community, we have so many different aspects of people helping out with our children. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody and have a wonderful day that day.
Thank you. I just want to say I agree with everything all of you have brought up. It's all important, and so many, all of our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, our bus driver, everyone contributes to a great environment for our kids, and that's the intent. It's purposeful. I'm proud to say that for Fulton, that we have purposeful intent in everyone trying to work together to make a good experience and a safe experience available to all of our children. I want to thank you, Jessica, for reminding s'mores. It is great. I saw it. I'm very impressed. It's a great piece of writing and information. And like you, the format I thought flowed really nice. So yes, I would like to get them all myself. I signed up for one. I haven't gone to every building yet to try to sign up for the others. But it's a good way to stay tuned into what's going on. And I'm really glad that you remind us of that. And again, my appreciation to the Probs, along with the rest of you, the work they do for Blessings in a Backpack on behalf of the kids in our community. I thought it was especially nice that they feel part of the Fulton community. I think that speaks volumes about this community being willing to embrace everyone. It's what we're trying to do. And Golden Sun, yes, kudos. I did not know they won that award. I think it was well-deserved. And I've appreciated them for a very long time. They've given us many decades of safe experiences for our kids, getting them to and from school and functions. And I'm very grateful for that, because a lot could go wrong and they work very hard to make sure that it doesn't. So with that, I want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have ample opportunity to spend time with the people you wish to spend time with, and to enjoy good eats. And most importantly, just take some time for yourself and rejuvenate, especially those of you that have to come back to work after the Thanksgiving holiday. Enjoy. My thoughts, very positive thoughts to every one of you. And to those that are viewing tonight, thank you again for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you and your families. And I hope that you all have a great holiday. And with that, I'm going to move the board along to executive session. We're going to go into an executive session and take care of some business. And no decisions will be made tonight, but we do have some items to discuss that are important. We will return to public session when our executive session ends. At this point in time, I'm asking if we could someone move. We have a resolution to go. No.
Yes.
Yes.
802.
I don't see the number. That's why. Okay. Someone move item 808.02, which
Move
is.
it.
I'll move it, or I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mrs. Perry, I'm a yes.
Mr. Cordone?
Yes.
Mrs. Mainville?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyons?
Yes.
Mrs. Albagor?
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Okay, do you folks need a 5-minute break or do you want to keep plowing along? 5-minute break. Okay, 5 minutes. We'll be back and I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're back in public session. And I have one item to adjourn the meeting, item 8.03.
Move it.
Would someone move it?
Move it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? I can't see everybody, so I guess I'll have to do roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.